Ta-da! There you go, James. You can hear me now. Hopefully. Right. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're watching from, whenever it is for you. Hopefully you can hear me now. I'm waiting for James to let me know. Yes, wonderful. People can hear me now. Thank you, Facebook user. Right, yes, hi, welcome. I'll repeat what I just said because you didn't hear me. I am in your ears. Excellent. That's a bit weird. I'm Duncan from Mindfinity, and I'm talking all about cognitive biases. No, Alison, it wasn't your phone. Sorry for the confusion. It was me. This is the problem with having all this fancy audio set up that sometimes, when you try not to use it, it wants to. And I didn't take the time to make sure it was set up properly first. So, cognitive biases, these shortcuts that we take to make our thinking easier that oh so often trip us up and make our thinking worse. We fall into illogical thinking traps. And today I'm talking about groupthink. I'm talking about groupthink because it came up recently in a group that I was working with, and it is a really common bias and theme that gets in our way. And it can especially get in our way when it comes to businesses and wanting to think creatively, to grow and think things in different ways. But it's just as true as individuals and running our own businesses or our own lives when we're interacting with other people. And groupthink is quite simple. As a group, we tend to naturally, subconsciously move towards a united opinion and way of thinking about things. So if there is a group of people, there will always be outliers. There'll be people who have ideas over here, there'll be people who have thoughts about it over here, but there'll be an average and a consensus that sits somewhere in the middle. And what happens when we're in a group is those outliers tend to move closer into the center, and we group our thinking because we want to fit in. We don't want to be the outsider. And obviously that has a lot of benefit in terms of keeping us safe and allowing us to be accepted in a group, which is brilliant and useful. But it can also not only hold us back, but hold the whole group back. So an example I've seen of this recently in a group that I was supporting, and I won't say too much, that would be probably wrong, but there was a group that I was working, and there was a consensus of opinion within this group that doing this task, completing this thing that they all wanted to do and were working really hard to do, was difficult and challenging, and there were all these problems and objections to overcome and difficulties and challenges along the way. And so it was really hard, and it took a lot of hard work and determination. And so therefore it was going to be really difficult to complete this task. Yet there are people that have completed that task time and time again and found it really easy. Partly because they didn't know that it was meant to be difficult. They just got on with it and did it because that's what they wanted to do, and they didn't really know any different, and they found it really easy. Is that because this person was a miracle worker and could do amazing things? No. It's simply because this person wasn't aware of and influenced by the group dynamic and the group thinking of this is going to be really hard. So in their mind, it wasn't going to be hard. And because they were seeing it that way and thinking about it that way, it wasn't hard. It was really easy. They made it really easy on themselves because they were convinced that it would be, basically. Here's an example, therefore, of how that group thinking can hold every individual back, but it can also hold the group back because they're all buying into this same idea. How do you fix that? Well, you don't, as with most of our thinking, and most of these cognitive biases that I talk about, you won't fix it. But being aware of it, knowing about it and understanding it can have a huge positive impact, because you can begin to control for it. By noticing it and accepting it, it allows you to then break outside of that and think differently. It allows you to take actions that you wouldn't otherwise take if you weren't aware that this was occurring and happening. Sit everyone down in a boardroom and follow the same agenda that you always follow and get the same responses and answers you'll always get, and you won't get someone coming up with some new, different way of thinking about it in that setting, because groupthink becomes even stronger when you're repeating those processes. But take a team day, team away day, or do some kind of task or activity that's all about being creative, that takes you away from the main focus. And then when people return back to work, it's amazing the way that they can think differently about things, because they've broken outside of that default setting that they're in. So groupthink is not quite the same as herd mentality, but there's very close links to it. You see your peers acting in a particular way and you end up wanting to do the same thing. And so we don't realize that we're doing it, but our thinking as a group converges, and all of these more extreme, not even extreme, just more varied views tend to amalgamate together, and as a group we all convince ourselves and believe that we agree with the group dynamic more than we necessarily would as separate individuals outside of that group. So that's your cognitive bias to look out for this week. Look for examples and opportunities to notice that within your own life. And the same thing will happen within family dynamics as well. Cognitive function, indeed, Fernie. Yes. So when you look at, I've got a whole series of these. So if you want to know more about the different cognitive biases, just head to the Mind Affinity website, and from resources select the lives and replays, and you can see all of the previous episodes in this series, all about these thinking errors that we make and these default ways of thinking about things that can actually kind of get in our way quite a lot more than they help us. So that's today's cognitive bias. Sorry that it's been a little bit of a while since I've done one. You've had a break of a few weeks while I've been juggling various other things, but I'm back and I'll be here again same time next week with another cognitive bias video. And if you've got any questions, thoughts or ideas that you'd like to know more about, whether it's cognitive biases or other things to do with mindset and how we think, get in touch, let me know, and I'll do a video to cover it just for you, if I like you enough. Thanks for tuning in and have an awesome week. I'll see you soon. Oh, and it's Thursday, which means today my podcast is coming out. The Mind Affinity podcast comes out at 4 o'clock every Thursday, and this week it turns out, I just found out on my Facebook memories, this marks an entire year since I launched my podcast. How cool is that? So if you want to check out my episode that's out later today, it's a great one. It's a chat with lovely Lydia Lee, or Lydia O'Donoghue, if you've seen her on Facebook, I think her name is. We talk about all sorts of things. We talk about coaching, we talk about autonomy, and how we have the control ourselves to make the choices that we want to make. Even if our cognitive biases and thinking may sometimes get in the way of that. So tune in and check that out. It goes live at 4 o'clock today. It's available on all your popular podcast channels, or you can ask Siri, Alexa, or Google. And for James Chisholm, who's watching, I know he loves it when I do this. Alexa, play Mind Affinity podcast. And hopefully that'll start it playing for him now. Ha ha ha. Thanks everyone for tuning in. See you all soon.